Hello YouTube! Let's have a look on the performance of the newest Call of Duty Black Ops 6 in this case on the Asus Rog Ally. I will benchmark some scenes and I will have a look on the VRAM usage. I test 4 GB of VRAM, 6 and 8 in the settings of the Rog Ally. So let's start. First I will show you my settings on the Rog Ally. I use 4 GB of VRAM and I will turn on Radeon anti-lag, Radeon boost and the image sharpening, which I use always on the Rog Ally when I can disable it in the game. So in this case I use full HD 1080p and I use the recommended settings, and then the game asks you if you want to have more performance or better visuals, and I choose the better visuals. But then the presetting choose FSR 1. So I tested it, I have better performance with FSR 3, so then I switched the presetting the game gives me for the higher visuals. I use this and then I turn the FSR 1 to FSR 3. That's all I have done. So as you can see here, see in the left corner, we start with the 4 GB of VRAM, and as you can see here in the most scenes, we are over 60 FPS. Here at the end we see 73 average FPS and 56 I think that are the 1% lower FPS, and as we have seen, I don't know if you have mentioned it, if I have mentioned it, in the left corner we have seen at the end of the benchmark there was used to be more than 10 gigabits of normal RAM. So now we are using 6 GB of VRAM, and on the Ally you have just 16 GB RAM for VRAM and for normal RAM. So now we have less RAM and more VRAM. So I will now have a look on which performs better. So as you can see here in this part, we are not reaching over 10 GB of RAM, we are just staying below, and this seems not to be as good as the benchmark before. We lost some FPS. We are now on 76 average FPS and a slight decrease to 52, 1% lower FPS. So the game was still playable, but 4 GB VRAM with the preset settings is better. Then I decided to have a look on the 8 GB VRAM setting. So now the normal RAM decreases more. So we are now nearly 7.5 gigabit of normal RAM usage. And yeah, as you can see, the performance is not far away from the other benchmarks. So if you see here, it's a little bit better than the 6 gigabit test, but it's not as good as the 4 gigabit test. As you can see here, we don't use 8 gigabit of RAM or 4 gigabit of VRAM, so normally it doesn't matter. So if you compare these tests, you see 4 gigabit preset, 4 gigabyte VRAM in the normal preset is better. So in this next test, I want to show how is it if you use better visual settings. I use now in this benchmark the balance settings still with FSR3 and the Rog Ally settings I have shown you before, but the in-game settings are now on the balance. It's like the mid setting in other games, and we have still very good FPS, and the game is looking better. So with better visuals, we have a decrease in average FPS and in the 1% low FPS, but it's still okay. And I have to say it really looks more like a modern game, because the other settings were a little bit crappy. So I can recommend using the balanced game setting. Now in this test, I want to have a look how good is the performance, so I choose the ultra settings of the game, still in 1080p, still with FSR3, but on the ultra preset setting, and it looks a lot of better, but the game performance isn't as good as in all the other tests. You can see the 1% low FPS here are nearly the 30 FPS mark. So you can see here the 1% low FPS up at 34 FPS, the average FPS at 47. For a game like this is not enough. I cannot recommend it. So you can try using 4, 6 or 8 gigabyte. In my opinion, 4 gigabyte VRAM is more than enough, and then you can have a look to the balanced game setting. This is the best visual you can get with the Rog Ally and still have nearly most time over 60 good FPS without heavy drops. So have fun with the settings, and if you like this kind of videos, it would be kind if you give me a like. Bye.